So before we go, I have to ask, you were one of the greatest switch hitters of all time. Do you ever think of playing lefty?
Ooh, no.
No, that doesn't even enter the equation.
No chance. I got enough trouble, playing one way.
Okay. Hey guys, Ryan from American Musical Supply here. We're outside Bernie Williams' house in lovely Bucolic, Connecticut. We got a chance to talk to him about guitars, playing guitar, playing baseball, and the things he's learned from both. We hope you enjoy. Now, I should preface this by saying I've been playing guitar for 40 years, but I've been a Yankee fan for longer.
Oh wow, okay.
So for me, it's a genuine thrill to see you as an artist, and then remember you for all the years that you played on that team, that dynasty.
Great time, man.
It's unbelievable.
So much fun.
Yeah. So I'd like to kind of go through some of the things that thrill you now, based on what you're doing now, and then kind of go through some of the things that you kind of took from your years as a baseball player and that you might still live by. First and foremost, you've been playing guitar for how long?
I started playing guitar when I was 8 years old.
Okay, and you're what? You're 38 now?
I'm 38 times.
So that's almost as long as I've been playing.
I'm 55 years old, and
55?
I've been playing for a long time.
Okay.
I started making these connections in life. My mom was an educator in the public education system in Puerto Rico, and in her mind, sound body and a sound mind, but I want you to be a doctor.
Of course, yeah, right.
Doctor, lawyer, engineer, one of those professions that would had a little bit of this glamour to it.
Sure.
But music and arts and sports were basically a means to have a well-rounded education in her mind.
Yeah.
And little that she knew that we were gonna, I was gonna pursue this, really seriously to make a living out of it. And then after I finished playing baseball, I was just gonna stay with music.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother, same example, he became a lawyer down in Puerto Rico, but he's also a cellist.
Okay.
So he played with the Puerto Rico Philharmonic for some time. And
wow.
but yeah, we were very in tune with music and arts, and then our other classes, math, science, literature. She wanted us to be well-rounded, and trying to expose us to a lot of options when we were kids. I just happened to just choose baseball, and made my.
It worked out all right.
It worked out great. It was all means to an end, I think.
Yeah, right.
It was trying to pay for my music career.
And so how did you weave music throughout that? I mean, there's these legendary stories of you and Paulie playing in the Clubhouse.
And they're true. They're true.
Yeah.
When he got traded to play with the Yankees in 1993, we were all wondering, what he was going to be like. But nobody knew that he played the drums. And we had a set in the paint room, the old paint room with all the leftover paint, from all the, retouching.
You guys can go back there. Use that.
Yeah, but there was a drum set there that was left by Ron Guidry.
Oh my God. He played too?
He played too.
Oh.
I think he played some of that second line stuff, but he left it there. And the grounds crew manager, guy, his last name is Cunningham. He used to play through he would turn the radio on and he just play.
Just go along.
And I would just listen to him, on my way to the batting cage,
Sure.
back in the old stadium.
Right.
And when Paul got traded, he started playing that drum set.
Okay. Lefty.
Yeah. Well, I don't know I think he's still
Is
righty.
he playing
I think
righty?
he snare with the left hand.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe hi-hat. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, I happened to just open the door one time, and he was the one playing for some Mellencamp or some Rolling Stones stuff.
Right.
And I asked him, "Hey, do you mind if I bring my guitar?"
Yeah.
And from that moment on, since '93, we started playing after batting practice, rain delays, after the games.
Sure.
We would bring people down and we would jam. It was like the best jam in the city that nobody ever knew about.
Any famous people come by? Or?
Well, I mean, that I can say, there were, we played like a guy that played with Jimi Hendrix, a guy by the name of Jack Scarangella would go out. He would teach Willie Randolph how to play drums. We had I think we had Richie Sambora at one time. All these New York cats that would come in, and I would, sort of draw it and put in, in the back, the back rooms, and kind of going through a scene from Goodfellas, going through the kitchen. It was okay, where are we?
Yeah.
We're in the paint room, and it was awesome.
I like the fact that it was in the paint room. Somehow in my mind, I picture this glamorous, like wood paneled sort of suite, and you're like, no, we're in the paint room.
No, yeah,
Keeps you
and then
honest.
the fumes and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That's sometimes you get a good feeling from that.
Oh,
You're
that's
lucky
so
though,
funny.
because
Yeah.
I have kids, and I look at kids today, and they tend to either go one way or the other, sports or more of the artistic vein. And you had both. And do you attribute that to your mom in terms of being well
Oh
rounded?
yeah,
Or yeah,
absolutely. There's no question about the fact that my mom and my dad, for that matter, he was more into the sports side. He
hmm
was the one that took us, me and my brother, to the little league fields after school, and it's kind of like teach us how to play catch and run, and kind of like getting all these life lessons, like about discipline and commitment and working hard.
hmm
Through just playing a game,
hmm
as kids. But my mom was more into the academic side.
Okay,
She was an educator. Is like, yeah, education, I mean, is going to get you places that, nothing else could ever would.
sure,
And even when I was, entrenched in my baseball career with the Yankees, she was still adamant about me getting my college degree.
sure.
It's like, you still need to be able to speak in public. You still need to be able to balance a checkbook. Back then, we would balance checkbooks.
Well, how many times would you see a teammate like with the mic in front of them and think, "Oh man," you felt for them because they
Yeah.
couldn't really articulate what they were trying to
Yes.
say.
Yeah, and having the ability to, like maybe show that you were more educated than the average, athlete was something that she really felt that it was important,
Mhm.
and very proud of, that effort. And yeah, we took it to heart, and I was always kind of like singled out, not sort of, made fun of, but always singled out as the guy that played guitar in the clubhouse, the
Mhm.
guy that, was reading all this like odd stuff,
Nerd.
Yeah, that was one of those. But I think in my childhood was really important that my parents never made me choose
Mhm.
between sports or arts or music. It was all part of the sum of the parts. It was, about the bigger thing was, to be well-rounded and educated.
That makes a lot of sense. And you think about it, and you're a parent as well. I mean, what you want for your kids, and how many people who probably could have gone on to big things in life were probably stifled by parents saying no. They're afraid. I mean, the biggest nightmare for your mom was like, okay, hey mom, I want to be a musician. Yeah, good luck with that. Oh, and on top of it, I think I'm going to play Major League Baseball. It's like, yeah, sure. That
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like, and look, you did it.
Yeah, and none of those things when I was a child, when I was, the 14, 15, 16-year-old, were things that my parents were considering as viable options,
Sure.
to make a decent living.
Mhm.
She was all, well, I mean, these are these professions, I was a teacher by trade, but I want you to be, I want you to be a little bit, better. I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be an architect, an engineer, a
Mhm.
lawyer. Some of those professions that has all the allure and all the prestige. Because obviously we weren't rich, and money was, sometimes an issue in the family. So she wanted us to not really, have that problem. And education in her mind was the way to do that. When I turned 17, right after high school, there was all these people coming in with offers to play in the minor leagues. And the Yankees, were one of those teams.
17.
17, yeah.
Amazing.
And my mom was like, well, actually they started in my junior year
Mm.
in this performing arts high school. I was like, no, if he's going to play, at least he needs to finish high school. So we ended up finishing high school and then going right into the minor leagues.
Okay.
And then right after that, I just kept, climbing the ladder, but always had a guitar in my hand.
Yeah.
I never
Makes
left
everything
it.
better, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wish I could hit with it. I would have probably been in the Hall of Fame if I would have hit with the guitar.
Well, we're going to have you
But-
do that in the backyard when we're done
yeah,
here.
play a little wiffle ball.
Yeah,
with
I'll throw some
with
lob
the
balls.
57 Strat.
Yeah, you would probably survive it if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, music and sports were always there.
Mhm.
And it had, they are an important part of my life, and that they still to this day, now I'm not playing, baseball anymore. I'm really still involved with the Yankees, in some sort of corporate kind of like meet and greet, motivational speaking, coach slash, guest instructor capacity.
Sure.
But the thing that keeps me, awake and excited right now is music. Have that, way that, there's always something to learn.
Mhm.
You never feel like you have learned everything. And then you look to, social media and you see all these cats playing, 6 years old playing, you know, like shredding. It's like, what the?
Yeah, but you know what? The beauty of it is, and I kind of feel for some of your peers in the sense that you've always had music. It wasn't something where you said, okay, my baseball career may be done for all intents and purposes. I'll pick up guitar. Some people say you always had that, and you could take that and kind of go, okay, I'm not just an athlete that decided to pick up guitar. This was something that has always been a passion for you.
Yeah, it was always a passion. And then when I retired from baseball, most of the people that retire from baseball or from professional sports for that matter, something that is like high profile and very exciting, very passionate, it's something that they're missing in their lives because this adrenaline rush that you get from facing a guy throwing 95 miles an hour in the city.
Yeah, how do you replicate that?
How do you replicate
Where do you go from there?
Yeah, where do you go from there? So there's a lot of people that have a lot of problems because they can't get that rush from anything else. And there's so much you can golf. There's so much you can, do, the commentary or whatever. And getting that feeling of excitement, to wake up in the morning and say, am I going to be the best broadcast that ever lived? Am I going to be the best golfer? I already was kind of like one of the best in what I did. So how can I?
And you're still young. I mean, where do you go from there?
I retired at 37.
Right.
So you get hopefully the rest of your life to think about, obviously try to make an impact in the community you live, but then what do you do for yourself to keep yourself young and excited about life,
Right.
So for me, it was music. It was all about music.
Yeah.
Where, went into it thinking I have to catch up because I all these guys are my music heroes and they have been spending their whole life working in this craft, and I just kind of took a little hiatus, and now I'm kind of like trying to catch up. And I always felt like that was a good motivator to always, think that I always had something new to learn, and I wanted to get my skill level to a point that I was considered a musician, not a former professional athlete that just kind of like doing this for fun.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And when I think of you, and I watched every game from the time you started, and the amount of adversity, I think a lot of people don't realize how tough you had it coming out of the gate, where, the boss was like, this kid hasn't performed yet in terms of what you became. Yeah, and how many times it wasn't easy street for you. You really had to bust your ass to get to where you got. And that's kind of what it's like to be a musician. I mean, it kind of served you now for where you're going. It's not easy to break into a new realm. And I think about how many times, they could have traded you somewhere else where you wouldn't have been the lifelong Yankee, the beloved Yankee that you became.
Yeah, that is true. And I think, that does make a lot of sense because playing in an environment like that where it's all about the competition and getting paid, enormous amounts of money to to play a game. So, there's a pressure and there's also the joy of, playing a kid's game and being paid for it, but there's also, the expectations that you had, that we all had as a team once we started winning and like, all right, the Yankees aren't back, back on top since 96. What do you do, the next year? What do you do the year after? Won in 99, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, we were one out short. And then they won again in 2009. So we are kind of like part of this like latest generation of putting the team where it was, back in the 60s or the 40s when DiMaggio and, go all the way back to Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle and all those guys. So being part of that tradition of winning baseball for the organization is something that is, is really special. But then at the same time, you get these other things that you kind of want to do. And music for me was the thing that I wanted to do after baseball. I didn't want to go into maybe coaching or doing something related, like spend my whole life, involved in the game, because I knew I had this other side of my life that I would really wanted to explore.
And that's great. You're lucky to have that. I mean, it's not that you didn't work for it, but again, you had something that you could literally fall back on. And it wasn't a matter of just biding your time until the next round of golf or the next celebrity thing. It's something you would do if no one paid you a cent to do it. It's your love.
Yeah.
And the fact that you get to surround yourself with all of this and do that, you know,
It's really special.
it absolutely, it seems to me like you don't take it for granted.
No, I do not. I do not, and that's why I, try to spend most of my time now practicing and making sure that my skill level is at a place where, you personally you get all this like I was my hardest critic when I was playing baseball, and I really feel in a way that most of the people that are going to hear me playing it, knowing the background that I had before, I have to be, like not ordinary but extraordinary to be even get noticed.
It's unfair, isn't it? Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
but in a way, it kind of keeps you honest. It's like, there's nothing that I did as far as, the accolades that I had in baseball that is going to help me to be the musician that I am. There's a lot of things that I learned from baseball that are helping me now. Being the musician that I am, being able to play under pressure and having that work ethic and really, honing down on very specific things and being hyper focused is really helping me into my music journey right now. Yeah. But none of those World Series rings, none of those championships and none of that stuff is like, I mean, it kind of, maybe it just opens the door, but once the door is open, you don't want people to hear, well, maybe he should have just stuck with his day job or, something like that. So I always have that pressure in my mind. It's like, I don't want to be ordinary. I want to be extraordinary. I want to be, able to people listen to me and say, this guy, even if he wasn't a baseball player, he has an idea and he tries hard, he respects the craft, and he's putting himself through the same process that everybody else that wanted to be something.
Right.
It's going through, we went through. So
I could say personally, again, as a fan who's watched you play, I watched you play guitar too, and it wasn't like, oh, he's good for a baseball player. I just remember thinking, oh man, I was kind of pissed because I was like, you can't be good at two things. Like, that's not fair.
You could.
Yeah, right. You gotta, what are you bad at? You got to be bad at something. We'll talk about it later.
I'm bad at a lot of things. So.
Yeah, but you know what's funny too, because I think, first of all, you're playing at the highest level in terms of your baseball career. You're playing on the most high-profile and loved and hated team in the world, probably. And so on any given day, I could have a bad day and screw up at work, and it's like, okay, well, no big deal. You walk down the street, someone's going to yell at you. You're going to hear it from management. You're going to hear it from, and you're saying you tune that out, and you're the toughest critic on yourself. You don't worry about the stats and what's in the paper. And did I go 0 for 4 one day?
That is true.
How do you shake that off? I mean, what do you do?
That is true, and I think it's a matter of keeping a balance in your life and making sure that you understand what the big picture is.
Okay.
In other words, I know that my job when I was playing baseball, it required a lot of my energy and a lot of my ability and all my time. And it was really important, not only for me, but for my family. And then you get the fans involved. And it's like
a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure. But at the same time, I'm not curing cancer. We have people that, they're police officers, they're firemen, they're people in the medical profession that really have lives in their hands. And I mean, I'm glad that I don't have that responsibility.
Tell me about it.
And in the big grand scheme of things, what I do, I feel that is really important, but it's something that I should not really take it as hard because there's a lot of people that are really doing important things in this world. And you got to keep that in perspective, I know that, there's a lot of great fans in the city of New York and in baseball in general. And, what I do and what we did as a team really affected, their mood, their disposition, how passionate they are about their game and their teams, and they want us to care. We really care a great deal, But at the same time, it is, we're still playing a game. You're still having fun, and we're still, making the best out of it, And there's a lot of people that, that really have very important jobs, in my opinion.
I totally agree 1,000%. But I'll give you this. I mean, the amount of joy that those teams brought to everybody. And you think about someone, they could be in the hospital watching it. They could have had a bad day as a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, and they watch a Yankee game, and it allowed them to tune all that other stuff out. I mean, I know how much it means to a lot of people. But I don't think you should belittle that either. Just because you're playing a game, you think about the amount of people that are employed because of that, the amount of money that's generated, the amount of goodwill, and you're part of a team. Now you're a solo. So you kind of like, you're not just part of that fabric. How do you live that without becoming egotistical about it or a little over analytical? You just say, I'm just going to try this out and go with it? Or?
Yeah, no. But I think, I take the same attitude that I did when I was playing, because even though my name is in the forefront, I'm still part of a team. I can't do this on my own. So I got band members that I play with that are much better, run laps around me. They have my back. I have, an assistant manager, that, books all the gigs. And I still have the team aspect of it. We're still trying to entertain an audience that are in this particular. I mean, the only difference is that they actually kind of root for me. Now they don't have.
They're not heckling you.
Yeah, they're not heckling me. They're saying, "Oh, that was a wrong note. Go back to Columbus, you bum."
Oh wow!
But
did you? Yeah.
I mean, I really understand that music, in a sense, that it's a little bit more of a spiritual journey than baseball was. Even though baseball was, if you get to that level, playing at that, at that level of intensity, and with so much at stake, it becomes a really important part of your life. But playing music, it kind of hits my brain and my soul in a different way.
Okay.
And I'm very, very fortunate to have the ability and the opportunity to do both in one lifetime, and try to be as good as I could, in both of them.
And that's a really good way of putting it. And I agree with you. I think in terms of what music does for a lot of people, in terms of massaging that part of the brain that nothing else does.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you can still draw upon that almost like a drug, in the sense that it makes you feel good every time you pick it up. And that's amazing to me. But your ego has to get involved to some degree. I mean, back in the day, you're playing with a bunch of other highly paid athletes. On any given day, you might be carrying the team. Another day, you might feel like a bum. You haven't played well.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, I'm part of a team, but I am the kind of the big name on the marquee. And for me, not knowing you, but seeing you play, your ego didn't seem to be a huge part of it. Like when you won the batting title, didn't you come out of were you like in the shower? What happened?
I was just about to get in the shower.
Yeah.
I had my, it was like all my shorts and my shower shoes. And they had announced that I had just won the batting title. And people started listening, they looked at the billboard and they saw the information and they started clapping and clapping. And
you're looking for soap.
Yeah, they're not. I'm like, what's happening? You hear this white noise, like this going, because I'm already in the clubhouse, just kind of like, doing my thing. And Joe Torre, the manager, just went and told the bad boy, hey, tell Bernie to come out because these people are not going to stop until you go out and acknowledge them. And the umpire had to call timeout a couple of times.
Sure.
The game was going on. It's like time. And then the players were like, what? What's happening? So I just came down the corridor with my shower shoes, my shorts, my undershirt. And I just, kind of acknowledged the whole thing. But that was, obviously one of the highlights of my career.
But and obviously, as it should be, first of all, to play a major league game is something that no one that you can talk to will really. But to think that you're down in the locker room, like the day that you could win the batting title, and you're like, oh, I think I'll take a shower. Everything's cool. I didn't think much of it. Whereas a lot of other guys would have sat on the bench and waited for that moment.
Yeah, no,
it didn't seem to occur to you.
No, it's because in baseball, it was. At least back when I was playing, we had more of a team-oriented attitude, and that was an individual accolade. That was something that I kind of, it was great. But I think in baseball, if you start thinking about that while you're still playing, you don't grow anymore. You feel like you already had it made and you're not going to work as hard. Okay. So in baseball, it's all about the next moment.
True.
And you just keep chipping away. Get a batting title, okay, great. Get a Gold Glove, great. Get a World Series championship, great. What's next? Right. And then you get all that body of work. Once you retire, you start looking back. It's like, whoa, okay, that was a lot.
Like a whirlwind.
But once you're in it, while you're in it, you don't really. You see all these things happening, and you just keep, just busting forward, to see what's the next thing that that you can be great at.
I think that probably brings up a big part of anything that you do, sports, music, whatever, is having that fortitude to go, okay, I have to be strong, I have to be healthy, I have to get my rest, I have to work out. But you also mentally have to go, I have to know when to tune that stuff out and just do what I do. Or to listen. Sometimes it's good to let that music or that noise in and go, I need to hear that. Maybe I'm not doing what I could have done better. And that seems to me like a very Joe Torre kind of thing in terms of, he seemed like this benevolent leader that kind of kept everybody in check. Is that fair to say?
That is, there's no question about that. He was, kind of like that maybe the Phil Jackson Zen
Yeah.
kind of thing going. He only had two rules. I mean, he made it really simple. You play your rear end off
Mhm.
as hard as you can, give us your best, and be on time.
Okay.
If you follow those two rules, I'll go to the ringer for you. And he did in many occasions. So he was, I mean, he just kept it very simple. Play your heart out and just be on time. And a lot of people just went, oh, well, this is easy. I can do that. So you get all the egos, everything kind of like checked in the door. And it's all about winning a championship. How do you win a championship? You play your best individually, but then there's always a chance during the course of the season or a game that you have to make a decision whether to play for yourself or to play for the team.
Okay.
And those are the times where you say, okay, I'm just going to sacrifice myself.
Sure.
I'm going to move the runner over. I'm not going to try to hit the ball out because I want my, home run numbers to go up. I'm just going to do whatever it needs to be done to get that run in so we can win. And that was it. Derek Jeter, had the same attitude. I mean, nobody really looked at numbers individually, but they just kept piling up because, everybody was kind of like leaning on each other. And okay, if I take the base, you're going to get just 2 RBIs because you're going to hit the ball out. We get a game, winning in the 9th inning. Mariano is going to come up and he's going to save it for us.
Automatic. Yeah.
So it's just, we kind of like we're good in putting ourselves in situations where we could be successful for us and for the guy behind us. And then just the numbers just kept piling up.
Okay.
So it was more of a team-oriented attitude that the byproduct of which was that we just got, good numbers, individually as well.
Yeah, it certainly lined up. I mean, you guys were a machine, but there were the individual parts that really seemed to work too. You might even see one of you guys like, okay, I'm feeling hot today. I'm in a good groove, and they might not be there. And sometimes you kind of could feel that they're still part of it, but maybe and that's like music too. Other than showing up and playing your butt off, and being on time. Knowing that okay, I'm playing for this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
And music is like that too.
Yeah, and I mean, individually, you can carry a team for a week, and you'd be like, okay, you guys hop on my back, I got you guys, and then you start getting in a little slump, and then somebody else comes up.
Right.
Hey, all right, I got you now,
Right.
So it's that sort of give and take where you feel that you are bigger than the sum of the parts, but at the same time, you feel that you want to do as good as you want to do, not for yourself, but the people around you that are relying on your ability, and
Right.
they're really, it's a whole team's expectation thing, and everybody buys into that.
So you were retired at 37. Let's kind of get a snapshot of that time. You wake up in bed. I'm not Bernie Williams 51 Yankee anymore. I'm Bernie Williams.
I was just Bernie, Dad. Get the trash out. Get the kids to school, Dad.
And you accepted that for a bit, and you thought there's something more.
Yeah, I figured that, it had to be, it's once you get that done in the morning, then you got the rest of your day to figure out. And that's when most people get in trouble because you feel that adrenaline, like really, pumping out. It's okay, we need to do something exciting, man. You go from like 100 miles an hour, living your life at that speed, and then you go literally at school speed. 25 miles an hour, dropping the kids off.
It's got to be hard
It's like, hi, Dad, I'll see you in the afternoon. And then you pick them up. And I mean, it's not that there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's, what most people really feel joy, having that connection.
Sure.
But growing up and having this side of my life, as intense and as crazy as it was, going back to that speed, it's like, nah.
I don't know. You're like, maybe I'll go back to baseball. Yeah.
And most people do. Most people, start getting into fast cars. They need that thing that will, wakes them up in the middle of the night. It's like, well, man, I'm glad and I'm excited about this. It's going to be a great day tomorrow. I'm facing Pedro Martinez, or I'm this is going to be, first game of the playoffs. It's just like, and you start getting your heart pumping, and it's like, what am I going to do? Am I, you got all that processes out of the window. And then you pick up a guitar and it's all about, all right, I'm playing with this guy, I'm playing this kind of music, I'm playing this standard, I got to improvise over this chord progression, this is crazy, I got to get my pentatonics right, I got to get everything. And it's, it's exciting too, because it's something that you are really not as good, but you could be, and you see the the light at the end of the tunnel and
Sure.
what it could be, and then you get to play with a lot of people that are your heroes and people that are really glad to play in the same stage. And it's like, well, I got to get better because I want to be able to play with these people
Yeah.
and feel that I'm holding my own.
Okay.
That
makes sense.
And that was basically why I went back to school and studied jazz. And I wanted to have that. First of all, I wanted to respect the process and make sure that I had an opportunity to do it the right way,
Right.
and get a college degree in the process, which will make my mom like really happy.
Well, you got to do that.
But at the same time, I had the ability to not only find out how to do it and the best way to go about it, getting the knowledge, but the most important question was why.
Well, what's the answer? Yeah.
Why would I want to be a musician? Why would I want to go through all this trouble to play music? And what is it that drives me? And
it's hard.
it was great. It was just a really cool experience. And now I'm just, like they say in New York, I'm just another cat looking for a gig.
Well, yeah. Well, to some degree, I'm sure. But yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I was playing at Love Rocks, with Marcus King.
Oh wow, he's awesome.
A couple of days ago. Last year, I was in the same stage with James Taylor and Sheryl Crow. We played Warren Haynes, Roy Haynes, the Allman Brothers sat in with them. Dave Brubeck, his son. Like there was one time I was playing a few years ago. We were making this tribute band to, do a tribute to Dave Brubeck.
Okay.
He happened to just passed away that same week. So his brother his son Darius came, and we played Take Five.
Okay.
Somewhere in Long Island. A week after that, I'm playing with Dee Snider and Twisted
That's the same
Sister.
thing. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
We're not gonna take it.
Sure.
And I was like playing, and then the week after, I was like, "Where'd I go?"
But you showed up.
And I showed up, and I
showed up.
felt that I was like in my element because I was playing music.
Right.
Whether it was heavy metal or jazz or everything in between, I want to feel that I'm like, I can do that, and I can be, I can actually hold my own.
So was it, and it's kind of a metaphor, but when the guitar felt more comfortable in your hands than a bat, I mean, is that essentially what you could say? You're like, this is the next, this is what I identify myself as. Bernie Williams, not dad, baseball player, but musician.
Yeah, I think you just kind of like sort of evolve into that, feeling that, that I had something to say. And I think for a musician, I think that's a really important part of their journey, developing that voice. When you hear Van Halen, it's Van Halen. When you hear Santana, it's Santana because they have this sort of iconic style, it's something that they have to say, and you can recognize their voice. And I think for a musician, that's probably one of the biggest parts that they have to go through in their journey,
You're right, because I mean, think about it. We're all playing the same 12 notes, right?
Yeah.
But when you hear someone play and they have that kind of, you just hear their thumbprint in what they do.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, as a ball player, you here's your stats, here's where you rank, here's the teams you were on. Those are all concrete things you could say, okay, I've achieved that. Yeah. Now with music, it's a little bit more soulful. It's a little more like, well, you never reach the top. You really don't. Who is the greatest? You could debate that all day long, much like people debate who are the greatest hitters of all time. And so for me, I could see you taking this to the day you stop breathing. I mean, this is something that you'll always do.
And then you gauge your success. It used to be on record sales, but now,
right.
that
doesn't go there. Yeah.
But you gauge your success now with the people you play with,
right,
and the places you play at. That's my my gauge. I'm playing, I don't know, Radio City Music Hall or the Carnegie Hall or Lincoln Center. I could. But the cool thing is that you could probably have the same joy and elation playing at a dive bar somewhere.
Oh, well, I know that feeling.
So it is, but because you're playing music and you're in your element and what you're playing is affecting people's, minds and souls. And I always found it so fascinating how you can play one note at the right time in the right place and just pierce to somebody's soul. Yeah. It's like, whoa, you got me at hello, man. It's such a great thing to be able to do as a person, let alone a musician. So it's an interesting, great responsibility that you have because you have this power. It's
Yeah.
almost like a superpower.
It
right?
is.
You get the ability to influence people's minds and hearts. A good song, I mean, can change a nation. You
Yeah.
know,
For sure.
It's the power that we have in music. You know, and it's a great thing to explore and to have this great journey, man. It's nothing that I'd rather be doing now.
Good. Well, isn't that a great thing to say? To be doing what you want to do, especially after having such a tremendous career. Can you think of any specific memory when you were in baseball where you were so jazzed after a game that you couldn't get to sleep?
Oh yeah, man. Probably most of the games.
Really? Were you
Yeah.
just wired?
Yeah, you're definitely wired, especially when you have a bad game, because I
Oh.
think, the brain has this ability to process,
Mm.
and it kind of dwells a little bit more on the negative than
Mhm.
the positive.
Sure.
So yeah, Paul O'Neill, to me, one of my teammates, he had the best example out of that. He would be 3 for 3, 2 home runs, a double,
Yeah.
and then he would strike out the last at bat,
And
and
he-
it was like nothing happened. It was like that was the worst day
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he would never give anything away, and it was like your brain kind of like dwells on the negative side more.
Mm.
So if you have a bad game, your brain goes into this sort of loop
Mm-hmm.
where you start getting all this like hints, what you could have done better in that situation, and then it's part of the process of just dealing with it, learning from your mistakes, and then put it in a
Turn the
side
page.
and
Yeah.
turn the page.
Yeah.
And that could take anywhere from a half hour to the whole night, depending on where you are in the season and how's the
And you
year
have to turn
going.
the 162 games.
Yeah.
It's like you can't dwell on, okay, last Thursday I did this. You just have to keep
Yeah.
going. So for music, can you think of any time recently where you were so excited after a show or a gig where you couldn't sleep, where you couldn't believe it had just happened?
Yeah, playing with James Taylor at Lincoln Center.
Okay. That's a good one.
We had we had a band it was a crazy band, and Will Lee was the music director.
Yeah.
And they hired me as a guitar player for the band, so I had to learn all this.
You're like me?
Yeah, all his music. Yeah, I actually had a spot at the Stephen Colbert show where I'm just playing rhythm, and then there's James Taylor out in the front just doing his thing. It's like, is that Bernie?
Yeah.
It's like,
What the heck's
I'm
going
just
on there?
playing rhythm there. It's like just kind of like backing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get all these things that you get the music, you study it, and you try to get it under your fingers.
Mhm.
And then as the day is approaching, you're like, oh man, I'm getting like...
It's the anticipation's almost worse than the gig. Yeah.
anticipation is worse than the gig. And then
Yeah.
you feel a little nervous after the gig because you start figuring out all the stuff that you could have played that you didn't. I know, I figured that's a common thing.
Yeah.
I thought it only happened to me, but it's like, yeah.
Everyone thinks that.
It was like, yeah, you come up with these great ideas after the fact. It's like, oh man, I could have done this and that and that. But then you kind of take that as fuel for the next gig. And the more you do, the better chances you get to play, the stuff that you really want to play and don't feel that you got cheated, But it is a process, and it's part of the thing that you kind of do. And it's great because I feel that if I picture myself 10 years ago, as far as my skill level, maybe I was a little bit less, but my confidence was a lot less.
Oh, okay.
I was like relying on the musicians, and they have the bigger parts, and all I had to do was just show and make sure that I played the stuff that I needed to play. Now I am detaching myself from the actual physical aspect of playing. I'm not looking at the fretboard as much anymore. So that gives me an opportunity to really hear what's happening in the band and react. And I mean, it's almost like having a conversation.
It absolutely is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have a conversation and you react to what they're doing and what they're saying and what they're playing. And that's what it's all about for me. Getting that chance to like really hear what's happening. And then I hear a note there, I hit a rhythm pattern there, and I just play something to react to
Feed
that.
off it.
And feed off of it. And that's one of the greatest parts for me, for being a musician.
And it's funny, you kind of draw on a lot of the same kind of aspects as being an athlete. I mean, all the mechanics that go into it. Okay, you practice, you think about, am I opening my hips too soon? Am I leading with, but you don't think about that when you're in the zone. You get up there, the guy's throwing to me, and I have to react to where he's throwing it and what I'm going to hit.
Yeah.
Or if someone's hitting at me, like you played center field.
Yeah.
The hardest one was the ball right at you.
Yeah.
right? Not the one where you had to go
low
cut.
risers, yeah.
But it's the same with music. You know, sometimes the simplest thing, you think, well, I'll just go in there and I'll kill it. And you're like, man, I screwed that up completely. And then you play take 5. You don't think about counting, you know, in 5/4. You just do it. And you don't think about, well, am I going to play an A pentatonic here, or should I? You just do it. And the fact is, it sounds to me like you're getting to that point in your career where you're aware of your surroundings, you're aware of the people you're playing with, but you're a big part of it, and you can go one way or the other with it on a dime.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
That is really exciting, because once you get into that part of your journey, where you have the instrument not being a hindrance of your creativity, but an extension of yourself. And you can think about something and just play it right away. And it's like, you know, you don't have to think, oh, do I have it down or whatever? You just play it. And yeah, it's just, you know, like being a good public speaker. You know, you read a lot, you know, because you make metaphors and analogies, and you draw from these great thinkers, you know, and you have all of that it plays in your brain, that you can access it,
right?
You know, at will. So as a musician, it's the same thing. You know, you get this great toolbox of things that you can do, and then you just forget about them. And then once you want to create some sort of melody line or a chord or a passing tone or whatever, you have that in your arsenal, and you can just use it, and without even thinking about it. And that's, you know, I think that's one of the things that I really enjoy about being a musician, is that sort of language aspect of it.
And knowing what not to play. I mean, it sounds to me like you've evolved from being a guitar player to being a musician, and there's a difference. I'm not denigrating guitar players or drummers or anybody. Someone who's musical, someone who is above and beyond the notes and the time, that's when you become a musician. You're feeling the whole thing. And it seems to me like you're taking that all in now. And it must be very gratifying.
It is. It is very gratifying, because I think it just kind of takes your music to a level that it's more spiritual than physical. Yeah. And you get so much more joy out of it, because that what you're doing, if you do it right, it could change somebody's day. You know, it could be, you know, it could bring somebody joy, you know. Sure. And we can take them from a place that it's like down to, like, you know, uplift, you know, the person, or, you know, whatnot. I mean, it could be anything. And to have that, you know, the power to do that to another human being, I think it's just, it can, I don't take it for granted. You know, I don't take it for granted.
That doesn't surprise me, knowing the kind of athlete that you were and the kind of teammate that you are, to see that you've surrounded yourself with this, and you know how much joy it can bring everybody. And we're going to walk through and take a look at some of these, and I might steal something on the way out. So we're up here in the, what do we call this building? Do we have a name for it? The studio?
Yeah.
We'll come up with something better later.
We'll come up with some. I had this thought in my head to make this room, you know, what it is now. It was not looking like that maybe about 10 years ago. It was more of an entertaining kind of, you know, space. Big bar there, and it was like, oh man, I kind of want this to be my little man cave, you know, where you can go in and bring my friends in and have the gear that I could just say, hey, you know what? I think we should record this, and then just press record, and then boom, that's it.
It's unbelievable, right? And you could cut it off from the rest of the house, and when you're here, you must be in a different headspace completely. Not just in terms of the fun stuff to look at.
Yeah, the whole vibe, you know, with the rugs and the sort of darker, you know, colors, and you get tired, you kind of play a little pool, you know, you can go out and, you know, have, you know, take this beautiful look of the lake and like recharge yourself, and then come back and do it all over again.
So is the point, if let's say you're like just about to nod off, but you have an idea, something comes to you, you could literally come in here, lay it down. Even if no one else is around, you know how to work the gear.
I mean, it's still a process, you know, getting all it's very intuitive. I can, you know, you could do, you know, as long as I have a good level when I record something, I can always kind of like do it in post-production and kind of like, you know, meddle with it. Yeah. But just getting good levels on the mics and make sure that I got a good performance that I can use later on. It's, you know, it's the most important thing, you know, when you come in. And even if you have like, you know, a very like a interesting idea, you just kind of want to get it down, because there's countless times where you think, you know what, I'm just too tired.
Remember it.
I'll remember it in the morning, and then you wake up, it's like, what is that thing that I was thinking? Oh, I was like, Oh, it was
So much better
awful.
last night.
It was so much better last night.
Yeah.
I can't even recall it. But,
So do you have specific pieces of gear? Like when you do think of that, is there a particular guitar that you might gravitate towards? Or is it more like, okay, that one's closest, I'll just go there?
Yeah, I'll try to keep one in every room. Maybe, I mean, obviously this is the room that has most of the ones that I kind of are more near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
For different things, I have like all kinds, from arch tops to solid bodies to steel strings to nylon strings, and everything has a place and a texture, and being able to have that many where you can draw from,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a blessing. But keeping them in tune and keeping them in shape so you can actually grab them and have a good sound with them, it's definitely a challenge.
And as far as the other gear goes, I mean, obviously we all love guitars, but is there a specific amp or a certain tone you have in your head where this is my sound, or do you go on any given day, I might want to play something heavy and fuzzy or something really clean? Like if I hear Bernie Williams play, what's that tone in your head? What are you going for?
I think it's a tone that has a lot of articulation. The more gain that I put on a stomp box, it's more forgiving, but it kind of, you get a lot of your nuance lost too.
Okay.
But I like to play with a little grit.
Same. Yeah.
So it's kind of like finding that
you can dig in.
That where you can dig in and you can actually, but you can also play a complex chord that has extensions or tensions, and you can actually hear it through that as well.
Yeah.
So it's not a completely clean sound, but something that has a little grit to it, but you can still play, chordal music and still have some definition.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we have basements there, Mesa Boogies, Evil Robots, Fenders, Riveras, Polly Smiths. It's to get that sound that you want. And a given recording or different, given thing that you're working on. It's cool to have,
And
options.
It's funny too when you have all these options, and then you sit and you hear it back. You go, well, it just still sounds like me, doesn't it? That's the best part, and sometimes the most frustrating part. Because in our minds we think, well, I'll plug into this box and all of a sudden I'll be Jimi Hendrix or I'll be, whoever. And then you realize, no, it still sounds like me.
Yeah, with guitars in particular. I mean, you get like a trumpet player and a sax player, you can, they make this connection with their instrument and that's it. For probably a lifetime if you can keep it in shape. But for guitar players, you got so many options.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I mean, there is an industry that relies on all these options that you have.
It's a great industry, by the way.
It's a huge industry.
It's really good.
But at the same time, it's such a great thing because you're so excited to hear about the next, latest and greatest. And just always being, excited about, what they're going to come up with next. And, what are the things that are, there's this really interesting dichotomy because we actually look for vintage sounds.
Oh, yeah.
We want to draw into the past because that's, where the instrument sounded with a certain tone. But at the same time, modern technology is getting us close to those sounds.
Yeah. Isn't that the greatest thing ever? Billions of dollars invested into something someone did 60 years
40
ago.
years ago,
Right.
60.
But there's no accounting for talent there. And I think that's the key is, and what you're doing as well. I mean, you're surrounding yourself with lots of great gear and it's lustworthy, but you're also putting the time in on how am I going to be a better musician? And so we always joke around about, people look for good gear. They think, well, gear won't make me better. But if you're good at what you do and you have good gear, naturally it should be better.
Yeah, it should sound better. And if you're going to spend the time, working on your craft to get it to a point that you really feel very comfortable about the music that you're playing and what you're producing, why not play it through the best gear that you can play it
You deserve it at that point. That's what I tell myself. I deserve a new
You put
guitar.
the work in and having a performance not being, played back at you and having the same, and it's like, wow, man, I spent so much time getting this down and the gear is not really helping me enhance that sound. So, it's a interesting symbiotic relationship between, what you use and what you choose to use and all the great stuff that is out there, and making sure that your skill level, is one that, like justify you getting all that great gear as
Well,
well.
it does justify it. Don't ever think second on that one. But it's also like having just different colors in your palette. You know, you might be in a blue mood today and you get, I'm in this headspace and why am I not getting this part down? Sometimes it's just as easy as flipping to a different sound or just picking up a different guitar and going, there it is, which I didn't initially think. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, that's what justifies having, you know, there are people out there that say you only need one guitar, you only need one amp. And we all know that that's not true. But to be able to use them all and to have it be the sum at the end of it all, it's like, okay, well then this room isn't just something to walk into. Like you can make stuff happen here on any given day.
Yeah. And that is what makes it so special. And that was my vision. I mean, I wanted to kind of have this sort of, like I said before, this man cave where I can bring my people, my friends, and you know, most of the friends that I have right now, they have some sort of musical connection.
Okay.
Whether they're instrumentalists or people that are in, you know, production, or, you know, just people that love listening to music. So this room is just basically with that in mind.
Okay.
You know, sit down, you know, have a drink, you know, have some, you know, something cool to watch on TV, maybe a game or something. And if you
don't have to pay for the Yes Network, you know.
Well, you know, that we're working on that.
I'm not letting that go.
I want to try to put a good word to that.
What's next for Bernie Williams? What's going on?
Well, I think at the time that this is happening, I am really getting ready for a residency at the Hotel Carlisle, Cafe Carlisle.
Nice.
From April 9th to the 13th.
Okay.
And I'm going to play with my the Bernie Williams Collective band, Sextet. And I'm really excited about that. And then on the 24th of April 24th, the New York Philharmonic is going to take one of my compositions. Moving Forward is the title track of my CD.
Okay.
They make an orchestral arrangement, and I'm going to perform the tune with them, kicking off their spring season. Ooh. And I was just working with the arranger yesterday. Okay. Making sure that everything that I was thinking of when I made the tune was, you know, kind of like in the score for one instrument to take it. I mean, whether it's bassoons and cellos or woodwinds, a piccolo in the you know, like in the far, you know, high from all the like tubas, and I mean, it's just, you got this palette of colors and timbres and textures, and I mean, that's what I want to do when I grow up.
That's amazing. Did you ever envision that when you wrote that song? Did you think, well, oh yeah, one day I'll be with the Philharmonic? That makes sense.
No, not in a million years, man. And we put a lot of orchestral percussion in the tune itself, but I never envisioned myself playing, you know, at that level with these guys. I mean, that
must be a thrill.
It is.
And then what do you do for an encore? We'll worry about that later. So before we go, I have to ask, you were one of the greatest switch hitters of all time, right? Do you ever think of playing lefty?
Ooh, no.
No, that doesn't even enter the equation.
No chance. I got enough trouble, you know, playing one way.
Okay, fair enough.
But I would like to get into playing more instruments than the guitar. Okay. Like getting into maybe a little bit of the bass, percussion, and in the piano, because I want to be able to write for those instruments and know what the sweet spot in them are. You know, what can I do to get the best out of the sound? Right. And if I can't play them, you know, I'm going to have to rely on somebody to tell me, okay, this is out of their reach, this is out of their range, and that maybe this will sound better. So getting into that, I think it will be probably the next part of my journey, trying to get familiar with that.
You can make it work.
But it's good. Yeah, got plenty of time, man. I got a new shoulder, a new knee.
Oh, yeah?
I'm ready.
You're bionic now?
Yeah.
I'll get you down to spring training.
I know.
A huge shout out to Bernie Williams himself for having us out here. We'd also like to thank Gator, UA, and Lewitt for making this possible. Be sure to like and subscribe for more artist content like this, and check out all the gear at AmericanMusical.com.